Tonight I would like to share with you some suggestions on how to work or how to be with a moment or period of feeling overwhelmed. So exploring also how the methods we have explored the last evenings, how they can actually be a support for these moments in life when we feel we are pushed over the edge, when things seem to fall apart. And I guess we all have been in moments when periods like that, and maybe some of us are, and the rest will be. So, and this is really if our practice, whatever it is, if our refuge, if what we turn to in times of really when we are hit, then it's a kind of test, or it can show us how serious we are about being a practitioner, or if that is a kind of show or lip service we do in times when we are kind of okay and things are going well. So when life is really difficult, what do you turn to? And what you turn to, is that a safe direction? Is that a safe refuge, one would say in the Buddhist thought? Is it a safe place? Is it a safe refuge? And tonight I want to make some suggestion. Of course, this is not the solution, but assuming that every human experience is workable, that's a basic Buddhist paradigm, that every situation, every experience is workable, then how? Yeah? And I hope that some of the reminders I will share with you might be helpful now in your life, but also when things fall apart, and they will fall apart. Nothing is solid, fixed. There is no safe ground. So I'm not sure yet what will come out. I didn't make a plan, but let's see if I can say something wise tonight. But before that, let's just sit quietly, so really as a welcome, and as a checking in. Yeah, and if you are in a difficult period in your life right now, you're walking on a shaking ground, then you are in the right place tonight. So you're very welcome to bring this experience with you in this moment. And for sure the direction we will explore is towards the experience, not away from it, but towards the experience. So I invite you to shift gear from the doing of the day, from the busyness, and part of that is that you start to notice that you have a body. And maybe you can slide with your in-breath into the body, down into your legs and feet. And you make that a welcoming embrace, as if you are hugging a good friend. In the same way, you welcome yourself. Dropping into the body, into the trunk of your body, and welcoming yourself, befriending your own energy. And of course, thoughts continue to arise, and that's fine. There's space for that. There's space for you as you are. And with the out-breath, it might be possible to let go of some of the effort, some of the tension, some of the pressure. And we can appreciate how the floor carries us, and that there's nothing to do. Nothing to understand, nothing to figure out. Just being here. And noticing how life is happening by itself. And then if you notice that you get fused, involved, entangled with your thinking, then drop back. Stay here with us. With the in-breath sliding and welcoming, befriending. With the out-breath, letting go of control and giving space. and returning and resting. And then we can already appreciate the stillness or the spacious presence which arises when we sit quietly together. And let yourself be meditated by that silence. And you don't need to calm down for that. This is bigger. And then if something arises, we welcome and notice. And nothing is excluded. And dropping back, noticing the lightness in your hands and your belly. And mingling with the spacious stillness which is surrounding and underlying, pervading this moment. Effortless meditation. All senses are open and your awareness is like the sky. Within which things come and go. Bathing your experience in kindness. if there's restlessness arising or tiredness, what we explore here is what happens if you let that be okay, if you say yes. And you take it into your arms. You breathe into it. You let it be as it is. And there might be even some curiosity about the stillness itself, about presence itself, about the space which we share, where we meet. And returning, resting, opening. If it makes sense for you, you can call upon the presence of the Buddha or the Dalai Lama, the Karmapa, some other mentor. And there's a sense of the morning sun rising, the morning sun of love, of compassion, of grounded presence, of joy. Of a profound well-being, and you just feel that in your whole body, from the toes to the top of your head, as if the Dalai Lama steps behind you, and you feel the warmth something in you softens even more. Every cell of your body, from the toes to the top of your head. Softening and opening. And feel how you're surrounded by that friendly glow. That soothing stillness. So paying loving attention to whatever arises. And loving means non-judgmental. And if you can bring some gentleness and kindness into it, that's really very nice, very beautiful. And you can borrow from the Dalai Lama or the Karmapa or Jesus. Or simply remembering a friend. Paying attention with a loving gaze. I guess that was my main suggestion. This simple the simple practice of the loving gaze, of being present. So just some other directions, suggestions, and then maybe after the break some of you can add something to it. So first, get the book When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron. And put it into your shelf, even if you are walking on solid ground just now. It's going to change. So, and then it's very handy to have a book like this in your shelf. When things fall apart. So let's start with slowing down. And that is really counter-instinctual. because our instinct says when things feel too much, when we feel overwhelmed, when we break into the unknown, then something in us says run. You know, the reptilian brain takes over. You know, the less developed part of your brain takes over. Fight or flee. So that's actually the commitment of sitting. You know? And that's like, okay, that's the support, the discipline of sitting, slowing down. Actually, when everything in you says become more busy, distract yourself, entertain yourself, try to fix, you know, try to make decisions, try to get things together, and then to remember, one option is to actually slow down. So that's this, the practice of sitting down, the practice of dropping from the head into the body, the practice of trusting, loving attention. And sometimes, in order to do that, you need to hold the hand of another person, because it seems to be too difficult to face what you're afraid of and face these feelings which seems to be too much. They seem to maybe kind of, they feel unmanageable. And they are not. They seem like that, but they are not. But then to call for help, yeah. So like we did now in our sitting, to call the presence of the Dalai Lama, the Karmapa, which is not. There's different levels to see this practice, but here we don't see it as a kind of worshipping or actually calling someone, but it is a way to connect with something in you, something which is already there. Because something in you is able to hold whatever arises in a human life. Something in you is indestructible, uncorruptible, in the nature of love. And the Dalai Lama is one of the many archetypical symbols of that. Or it can be, of course, a friend, a therapist, a mentor. You don't need to do this alone. So slowing down and emphasizing with that also that an important part of holding an experience of being overwhelmed or things falling apart is to be in that situation with your whole body. We have a sense that we need to figure something out, that we need to find a solution on a cognitive level. And let's see what happens if instead we become quiet and pause and slow down and give it space, trusting that something will emerge. It is such a, it's such a, it's so sad that in our way of thinking, in this productivity madness, where it seems that the value of our life depends on what the output is. Yeah? So how much we produce or how much we have things together, that there is not so much really appreciation or gratitude for people in crisis. It could be different, but it isn't. So instead they are not only are we in crisis, but then we feel ashamed about it, or we feel we're wasting our time, or what a waste of time, and look at me. I don't know how old you are, and I didn't, what's my output? So I don't think we can expect big changes in the culture we are living there, but for us we can, particularly if you feel that your life is about growing up and waking up. So if that's kind of your sense, that the mission of your life is not to be productive and have a lot of output, but actually life is your opportunity to grow up and to wake up for the benefit of all. Then actually, when things fall apart, it's a good thing. I mean, I wouldn't say that now if I would counsel you in a crisis, yeah. Probably not. But we all have, I think we all know that at one point, maybe very soon, we will look back on our life and then we can see, wow, this crisis which peeled off some of my arrogance and some of my stupidness, and was actually probably the best thing in this life. Or at least something valuable, something important. So one of the possible gestures in a moment where you feel overwhelmed is to feel, I'm not alone with this. This is Tonglen in a nutshell. Tonglen is a Tibetan Buddhist practice. So it is like, okay, I feel overwhelmed, it's too much, I slow down, I drop into the body, I put a picture of His Holiness the Dalai Lama in front of me, or a recording of, I don't know, whatever, to hear a voice of someone who's reminding me of what is important. And then I say, I'm not alone with this. Just now, there's so many people, just in my little part of Copenhagen, there's so many people around me who experience the same. Who feel that it's too much, who feel like giving up, who even feel they want to kill themselves because it's too much. So I'm not alone with this. And in that moment, there can be a bit of an opening, because there's some compassion is a big word, but there's some, wow, life is difficult. Shit. It's so fucking difficult, and here we are in this together, still trying to our best. And then in Tonglen one could even in that moment do a little prayer or a wish like with the in-breath. Like, okay, oh, may all these people, may they, what would be the best to wish them? May all these people recognize who they are. May all these people feel connect with the truth of their being. And then one could say, and I'm going to grow on this. I want to grow on this. And that might take many, many years. But I want to grow on this. For the others. Maybe that was a bit too complex now. So this thought, I'm not alone with this. This is nothing special. How can you manage a life without breaking down? It's impossible. It's too hard. It's too difficult. So we are not alone with this. And as best as you can, not feel it as it's an opportunity. It's not a waste of time. It's not a waste of time to be in crisis. It's an honorable job. Yes. It's an honorable job. What's your job? I'm in crisis. And I'm proud of it. I'm exaggerate, but it would be so wonderful if we could have a bit more dignity in it, and then also to bring this, bring that space, then also because we are surrounded by people in crisis. So to bring that also into the way we look at others. Not saying, now it's finished, 3 months of grieving, now you get your shit together. It's enough. And if you grieve longer than 3 months, then you are called depressed. So then, a practice of nurturing, a practice of what you could call self-compassion or self-care. And that could be in a moment of, the wonderful thing in meditation practice is you always work with with what is here, what is happening now. That's what you work with. And this is already an amazing thing, because what you start to discover is that what is happening in the present moment is actually workable. And we will look into that a bit later in my presentation, when I look into then the investigation into the Vipassana part, where we go even deeper into the experience and really look into for what it is. But now in this part now, we get to know or learn, your ways of nurturing and taking care. And this is the mudra, of that. So I do it again. This is really a difficult moment for me. It's really difficult. So, I don't know if you connected with something. Maybe it was a bit too cheesy. So remember when a friend or another person offered that space to you, like, oh yeah, I'm here with you, whatever it is. I don't judge you. I don't feel it's stupid. I feel you have good reason to feel like you feel. And let's be there for some moments together. So to give that to yourself. And again, sometimes it's difficult to find that resource in you. It is there for sure. It's there. But sometimes it's difficult to connect with it. And then there's the option of asking for help. Please. Yeah. Angels, come here. I need your help. So before we in a contemplative way go closer to the experience and investigate into the experience, it's really very helpful to first connect with some support, some resource, something within you which is whole. And more you are familiar with that through the practice before the crisis. Yeah. So if you have, for example, cultivated a practice of connecting with the Dalai Lama every day, and again, it's what you connect with is the Dalai Lama within you, then it will be easier for you to actually feel, oh, this is available also now. No, there is something in me, something in my experience. I can feel it in my hands, I can feel it in my feet, I can feel it in my belly, which is safe. It is there. Imagine in really when you are sitting in the evening, you're at home and you feel overwhelmed. Imagine Jesus would actually step in and would put his hand on your shoulder, and you would feel the warmth and the vitality going into your body. Like, then, or the Dalai Lama, or your grandfather. And then through that touch and through the presence of that person, you connect with something. And that which you connect with is here now. It's there all the time. It's an aspect of yourself. Oh. So, now, let's go a bit deeper. Yeah? So this was the entry protocol. Yeah? Taking refuge, connecting with bodhicitta, some guru devotion. That would be the traditional words for what I just explained. Yeah? So now comes the wisdom part, yeah? The vipassana part, looking deeply into our experience, investigating. Investigating into the one who feels overwhelmed, and investigating into overwhelmed. What is it? So we need to honor that sometimes we are not there to do this deconstruction or to do this unfindability inquiry. Yeah? Sometimes it would be actually premature to go into it, a kind of escape of not, giving the way you feel the space of being felt and being experienced, and being a place of cultivating compassion. So it's a bit of a balance. So sometimes, doing an investigation into the one who feels overwhelmed just doesn't make sense, because it's just like, you wouldn't care less. You would think it's like a philosophy, or it's just thinking, and of course it helps if you have done self-inquiry before for a few years. Yeah, so that just being reminded that there is actually not an I which can feel overwhelmed. That I which feels overwhelmed is completely made up. So now if you have received teachings before and you have reflected on it and you have looked for the mini I and you have not found it, then just me saying this can give a moment of relief. Yeah, wow. There is actually nobody here except the one. Yeah. So unfindability and deconstruction. So unfindability. Let's say I feel overwhelmed. Yeah? So that's a sentence. I feel overwhelmed. Let's look at that. what's the reference object for I am overwhelmed? No, the reference objects means what is that referring to? What is it what we're actually talking about when we say I am overwhelmed? What is it actually? So let's start with I. I. Okay. What do I mean when I say I? Where is that I? Now, if you have done some self-inquiry and some, not finding of a solid, separate I, then you still have to do the inquiry. Yeah? So I. Actually, last evening I was talking about curiosity of being aware, to become curious about being aware. And there I talked about the I, that if we dig deeper, what we actually referring to when we say I, we referring to something which is something in our experience which is there in any kind of experience, no matter what the experience is. Yeah? So as a child we said I, and today we said I. So what's the deepest level of when we say I? The deepest level. It can't be this body, it can't be your roles now, it can't be your name, it can't be your feelings, because that's all changing and shifting. And so what's the same I from 20 years ago and today? The I, the real I. Yeah? And that real I, wow, I tell you, that real I never feels overwhelmed. That real I, being aware, is like the sky. There's a thunderstorm coming. The sky remains aware, remains spacious, boundaryless and centerless. So the I which feels overwhelmed, you can't find. And the I which the true I, the true self, does not feel overwhelmed. The true self is aware of feeling overwhelmed. Yes, it knows being overwhelmed, but it is not overwhelmed. So, away with the I. Either we don't find it, or when we find it, we realize it's not being overwhelmed. There's space. The deep sense of beingness is not overwhelmed. So, don't worry if this does not make sense. Then we go back to the entry protocol, which is actually a big step, of course. So now, am. Let's not look at that. That's like I am. I mean, okay. Am. I am. Yeah, I am. Now let's look at overwhelmed. Okay, overwhelmed. So by what? So I sit at home and I say, I am overwhelmed. So what is that overwhelmed? What is it what I'm referring to? Okay, let's look in the body. Okay, overwhelmed. Yeah, there is some tension here, a bit short of breath. Like I feel like almost crying. Yeah, it's okay. Is that unbearable? Is that dangerous? No. Overwhelmed. Is it changing? Yeah, it's changing. It's actually, I mean, it's like energy. Yeah, it's energy. Yeah, it's what. I wonder what would happen if I don't call it anything. What happens then? Let's imagine for a moment I don't have any memory. So what is it then? Yeah, there's still like moving energy. Okay. It's workable. So overwhelmed. Okay, I am overwhelmed. Yeah, I'm overwhelmed by, so kind of, so we sit at home at night, so, and we're working with what is in the present moment. So we look around, so overwhelmed. By what? By what is it I am overwhelmed? Where is that? Wow, I actually need to concentrate to feel overwhelmed. It's like single-pointed concentration on, okay, what was it I feel overwhelmed? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But how can I be overwhelmed by something I make up? Like something I need to call into this moment. Something which is not here and which is not real. It's not real. Because what is real is this. So I am overwhelmed. No? When we sit there and we don't investigate, we don't realize that we don't know what we're talking about when we say I am overwhelmed. It seems to be so like so obvious what we are talking about when we say I am overwhelmed. But then if you look into what we actually said, we can't really put our finger on it. It's like unfindable. You can't find it. It's a construction. And if we take it apart, this construction, we start to see that the parts by themselves are workable. Sensations in my body, the thoughts, the words, the memories, the judgments, the stories, they are workable. And of course, now you might think, yeah, but tomorrow, then I get up and I go into the office and then there's this pile of paper and that's real. But if you are there in front of the paper and you have done what we just did before, and you sit in front of that pile of paper, you will find the same. You will find the same. This moment is workable. It's unpleasant, it's maybe difficult, it's challenging, but it's workable. So I hope I convinced you. And let's have a break now.